And as always, this is my favorite day of the week when I get to shine the spotlight on somebody who's doing pretty cool stuff and helping entrepreneurs to just get in front of people and share their brownies, share their cookies, share their zone of genius with people. So I usually give a digital marketing a tip of the week, and I'm going to have to say this whole episode today is built around the digital marketing tip of the week, which is the more you show up, the more people will know you, like you, trust you, know your story, know whether they want to work with you. They might not want to work with you, and that's okay. But giving people an opportunity for these experiences with you, to learn how much you know, to learn whether or not you understand their pain points, to learn whether or not you have solutions to their pain points. Wherever those opportunities arise, I highly suggest that you go out and find them. So it could be a blog. It could be an interview series like I have here. It could be a podcast. It could be being a speaker in front of a group. It could be writing a book. Whatever your way is to show up for people, make it consistent and make it truly yours. Because when it's truly yours, you don't have to stress about it. You just do what you love. When I was trying to figure out what my content strategy would be for Rise Above Noise, I knew that I could write a blog about email marketing and nurture sequences and lead generators. I can write a blog about Google Analytics. I could write a blog about, all the things. But what felt right to me for consistent and generous content was to be able to continue what I had started with the Women's Business Network so many years ago, which is coming closer to somebody who has information that will help my audience, bringing information that, again, shines the light. That's how we did it in the Women's Business Network. It's how we do it in Rise Above Noise. It's how we do it in Rise Together. It's making sure that we can all rise together, and we can't do it alone. So we need to know who the people that are out there in our boats so that we can all do this together. So today, I am so happy to be able to speak and to introduce you, if you haven't met Patricia yet, like she is the powerhouse of positive lifestyle. If you haven't met Patricia yet, she has a wealth of information. I'm going to read her official bio. I just took that out of there. Patricia Raskin, president of Raskin Resources, is recognized as the powerhouse voice of positive lifestyle and positive media pioneer. That was a lot of alliteration right there. An award-winning radio producer and business owner, Patricia has served as a catalyst for creating positive change over 3 decades, and she uses her expertise to help her clients develop and deliver their own podcast programs. You guys, if you've been interested in starting a podcast or learning more about it, you've come to the right place today, right? Patricia has aired on Fox, PBS, NPR, and Cumulus affiliates. She has an internet radio and podcast program. It's called the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show. You guys listen to this. Hold on one sec. This thing. I hope you can hear it.
Tune in to the Patricia Raskin Show on voiceamerica.com every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Time. This is the program that helps you turn obstacles into opportunities, challenges into solutions, and find answers to tough questions with the award-winning powerhouse voice of radio, Patricia Raskin. So tune in and call in to the Patricia Raskin Show, Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on the Voice America Variety Channel.
I should have just done that instead of reading it. That's so good. So one more thing, when I asked Patricia what her superpower is, it's delivering positive messages through the media. And I'm so honored that you're here with me this morning, Patricia.
You win the prize for being calm and collected and knowledgeable and kind. I could go on. But my superpower is one word. It's called pollination. I'm a pollinator. And usually, and I don't know why it's not on right now, but usually I'm wearing my bumblebee necklace. I wear it all the time. And what that symbolizes is that what I do is I pollinate through the airways. So I basically pull the pollen from the flower. I pull the pollen from you, Susan, and I go poof. And that's what I've been doing for, it's not 3 decades, it's 4 decades now.
Wow.
Yep. I started when cable TV was just beginning in its infancy in 1982. And that was the beginning. I've gone through every iteration, from community television to internet to broadcast television, broadcast radio, public television, public radio, internet radio, podcasting. I've been on them all. And what I try to do now is pollinate through helping other people deliver similar positive messages, no matter what their message is or no matter what their field is. If they're helping people to improve the quality of their lives, then I want to help them.
And so how do you do that?
Okay, so let me go through a few things here in terms of what I do when I'm working with podcasting. Because a lot of you know that, in the 30s and 40s, we had the golden age of radio. And now in the 2019 and 20, we definitely have the golden age of podcasts. And we now are reaching over 100 million Americans that are listening to podcasts. And, a podcast is really it's an audio form. What's the difference between a radio show and a podcast? Well, today there isn't much of a difference, because when you're on a radio show, even if you're on broadcast radio, it's digitized so people can hear it on the internet. So it also does become a podcast. The beauty of this is that you can do it any way you want. When I was on broadcast radio, there was a certain formulaic piece where you have the FCC regulations, you have commercials, you have certain time schedules. You don't have that when you're doing a podcast. You kind of can do it any way you want, for as long as you want, have as many guests as you want, and you can talk about what you want. And people are listening in more than ever before. I mean, we have 100 million, podcasts out there, and we have millions of listeners, and it's because it's so easy. It's so easy. You can use your headphones and your earbuds, and it's just easy. And there's so many platforms. There's iTunes, there's Stitcher, there's Spreaker, there's iHeartRadio. There's really a lot of them. And so I also talk about what are the benefits of having your podcast. Do you want me to go into that, Susan?
Oh, I'd love that. Yes, thank you.
All right, so there are several major reasons of why it's really beneficial to have a podcast. And I think, the first one that you really want to look at is it's a low barrier to entry. Anybody can do it. However, anything that's a low barrier to anything, and anything that's low cost is usually high cost and time. It's a lot of energy, it's a lot of time, but it's certainly, you can get in. You can do, it's like writing a book. Today, anybody can self-publish, right? But who gets to the big houses? The people who have lots and lots of books that they've sold on their own. So you have lots and lots of podcasts that people are listening to. Those big advertisers will find you, because it's all on the internet. They can look online and see how many listeners you have. All right, another reason is it's very easy to access, as you know. And the main one that I talk about, and in all of my work, is the main reason to have a podcast is that a listener gets to know, like, and trust you. And the difference for me between a broadcast radio show and a podcast, it's more intimate, the podcast. You share the backstory. You can actually, even if you're having an issue, you can tape it and you can play it for your audience. See this argument I had, see this issue I was having, I want you to see the conflict, and here's how I felt about it. You actually let them into your back room, if you will. And people love that, particularly today with COVID. We all want to feel more connected. It drives traffic to your website. It enhances your toolkit. So in other words, it's like a blog. It's like a website. It then gives you that exposure and gets people, again, to know, like, and trust you. So those are really important. The other thing that I love about doing this, and I've done this for decades, is it really expands your network. the people that I've interviewed, the celebrities and the experts and the people that I've interviewed over the years that have given me a bird's eye view and a window into their life, into their work, into their soul has been absolutely, I think, the most rewarding thing of my career. I've been very fortunate. I've interviewed Maya Angelou. I've interviewed Dr. Oz. I've interviewed John Gray. I've interviewed Jack Canfield. I've interviewed Joan London. I've interviewed some really pretty amazing people. And I've been really fortunate over the years. Okay. You can also monetize your podcast. That's going to take a while. The main reason you're doing a podcast is to get people to know, like, and trust you. And if they do that, they'll want to work with you. But there are ways to monetize as well, in terms of collaborating with others and doing crowdfunding and affiliate marketing. But the most important thing in all of this, in building an audience, is your content. Your content is absolutely king, and that's going to be so important. You want to find a hook. You know, what are you going to talk about that's going to make this a little different? Today, the big hook is the coronavirus, because whatever we're talking about today, we're living in this world of the coronavirus, so we're seeing it through that filter. And then making yourself really unique and original. What is that? Why are you listening to my podcast instead of somebody else's podcast who talks about the exact same thing? You're listening because of my knowledge, my style, the guests I have on, my personality, the way I dress, whatever it is. But there's something about that person that you're listening to. All right. Also, the other thing that's very important, and Susan, you talk about this a lot in your work, you must target your market. You must know what you want. What does your market want? And that's your end goal. You want to give them what they need. You don't want to just do a podcast on something that you like, which is important, but it's got to be something you like that the audience needs. Otherwise, they're not going to listen. So you create that win-win. You match what you want with what they need. Also, you know, communication is almost 50% nonverbal. So when you're doing a podcast, you're working with less than half of your total communication. So that's where words are so important. Inflection is so important. Tone is so important. Now, if you do it on Zoom or you do it on Facebook or you do it on a video conference platform, then they can also see you, as you can see me today. Okay. When you are doing this, you need to hold the attention with stories. Content is king, but stories really make the difference. And you can go on to something, if you really want to know how to build a story scientifically, step by step, like in a puzzle format, go to something called mystorybrand.com. Okay. Bring on guests. They'll help increase your audience because they will promote it to other people. And then the other part of this that's very important, and this is really Susan's arena, is you must, if you're going to do this and you stop there, don't do it. If you do this podcast and you're done, don't do it. Because what's the most next important piece? Susan, what's the next important piece here?
Well, you got to make people know that it's out there, and you need to use your podcast to meet whatever, you have to have a goal. Your goal isn't just for people to listen, right? You want them to do something. Is that what you're going to say?
You want to promote it. And that's where Susan can help you with social media platforms, with creating videos and demos, you know, really helping you meet the needs and understanding the technology. Now, you also can do this all by yourself, just like you can create your own website if you'd like. And there are some technical resources to do that. One is called Anchor, and you can do your whole podcast on your own. Most people don't want to do that. They want to have somebody else help them. But where I come in is I really do help people with the content delivery and development and crafting their podcast. Again, the other thing that's really new that's exciting is Google Podcast Managers is a new service, and it brings and allows podcasters to actually analyze their data and distribute their shows. And then if you go to Anchor, Anchor can also help you because it is an all-in-one platform where you can create everything. And then if you want to just sell your show piece by piece and charge, you know, $5, $2, you can use something called Breaker Upstream. But what I do is I help people really craft their podcast. I have my regular website is patriciaraskin.com. I have two websites within that website, and I have them by themselves as well. One is called produceapodcast.com. I take you through the steps, what I do to help you produce your podcast, and then improvemypodcast.com helps you improve the one that you already have. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Twitter and Facebook and most of the social media platforms.
This is great. That was so good. So I put all of that in there. I was typing like crazy to get all that in there because it was so good. Let me see now. Facebook is only showing me some of the comments because I wrote down some notes. No, it's not showing me everything.
Any questions?
So let's see. Are there any questions here on Zoom? And I'm having trouble on, let's see if getting on Facebook to see where my...
Let me say something while you're looking at that. I think, one of the questions that people ask is, I have a lot of things I want to say. How do I organize it all?
Yes.
What you want to do is you want to look at, first of all, what is your goal in presenting this podcast and what content do you want to deliver? So whatever you're here. So for example, I'm going to use Susan as an example. So Susan helps people rise above the noise by really having their social media and their presence online stand out. That's what she does. So if Susan were to do a podcast on how do you stand out, how do you rise above the noise, which she probably would use that title, she would then come up with, for different podcast segments, the things that her clients most need and talk to her about. So she might say, well, my clients, they always have trouble having people find certain things on their website. Or when they come up with their LinkedIn profile, it's too busy. Okay, so we might want to do a 20-minute, and I say do them in 20 minutes. You don't have to. People do them in an hour because it's like a sitcom. So I might say to Susan, okay, Susan, so for this podcast, let's talk about how you use LinkedIn effectively. And, what are people looking at? How will they look at your LinkedIn profile for more than 2 minutes? Or she might want to do one on email campaigns. Why are they important? And what I would say to Susan in this is, Susan, while you're doing this, you want to make sure you tell a story. So don't give me a rundown on email campaigns. Don't give me a rundown on LinkedIn. I'll get bored. Tell me the story you had with that client. Tell me the struggle of that client. Tell me what they faced. Tell me their frustration. Tell me how they called you up and they said, Susan, I've had it. I'm not doing this work anymore. And you said, in your beautiful, calm, incredible tone that you have, now, Joan, don't get upset, because I'm here to help you. The tranquilizer comes in. Right. And then, I mean it seriously. It's funny, but it's really true. You do that for people. I know that I am a communications person. I've learned technology because I've had to. And I said this to Susan before this. Every time I get on, and I do webinars, corporate webinars globally, daily. Every time I get on with that new webinar, my heart is in my chest going, is it going to work? Is it going to work? What if you can't hear me? Oh my God. And that's something that I have learned to control, but it's still there. Susan doesn't have that. Susan does that. That's why she does the work she does. But what she can do is she can help you with that. And that's something she could do a whole podcast on. What about those people that aren't natural techies? Right. How do they get over that anxiety before they get on? Well, maybe they don't, but how do they lessen it? I'm going to tell you a story about my friend Patricia. She gets crazy before. You see what I mean? You're going to make it interesting. People want to hear the story. They don't just want to hear the stories. Give them 10 things about how to make your social media pop. We can read that in a book. Right. So that's the answer.
And a little bit of free coaching for me too. I appreciated that, Patricia. Thank you. Patricia and I were talking earlier, and I know that you have to jump off, but we were talking earlier because we're running a podcast. No, we're not. We're running a webinar on next Wednesday, September 30th at noon, where we're both going to have get it done kind of tips for you, a little bit more of a deep dive into podcasts. I'll be doing a little bit more of a deep dive into how to get your podcast seen, how to squeeze the most juice out of it, how to attract clients, what your calls to action are. And one of the things I was talking about with Patricia is that in the webinar, do I want to talk about analytics? Do I want to talk about conversion pages? And I said that once I say the words like search optimization or conversion pages, how people do get that anxiety. And so I'm searching for ways to make it more fun and more like a game. Instead of calling it a conversion page, I'll call it a money page, right? Instead of calling it analytics, I'll just say, let's just go see who's visiting your site. So it doesn't have to be right? The whole podcast thing and the
Right.
whole doing it for a reason. Always remembering it's not about ego. It's about building your business, in my
And
opinion.
let me add something let me piggyback on what you said about it's not about ego. Remember, not everybody's going to love you and not everybody's going to listen to you.
Yeah.
We all have different styles. Look at all the newscasters. Why do you pick one over another and you say, I'm not going to listen to that? Same information. You don't like their style. Not everybody's going to love you. I mean, I have more of a delivery. I'm intense. I'm passionate. I'm quick. Some people love that. Some people would rather have Susan, who's very calm and easy and slower, right? So for me, I would listen to Susan because I need that calmness. Somebody else may want somebody who's, in a different style. Some people like a very aggressive delivery where people are, really just very quick and fast.
Right.
Not everybody does. So know your style, appeal to those people that are going to want to listen to you, and don't try to be all things to all people.
Perfect. I'm writing this down because I want to put this in the show notes that will be on the website. Can't appeal to all. Oh, what was the last thing you said? Just your style appeal. You can't appeal to all people.
Right. Be yourself and
Yeah.
don't try to change who you are because you really can't. Know
Love
that
that.
people are listening because they like who you are. I mean, if I try to talk like this very calmly, usually it means I'm controlling myself and I'm probably angry or underneath that.
Same. Yes.
Right? But if you hear me go, now, Susan, I'm so excited. I want to tell you about that. That's the real me. And that's when you get my passion.
So good.
But if I say, well, Susan, I'm really happy that you invited me to do this podcast. So great to be here. I'm going to go to sleep now, right? So again, you got to know the person you're dealing with.
Yeah, you got to bring the energy and do what you need to do to show up as yourself. Patricia, thank you so much for being. I'm looking forward to you guys a free webinar next Wednesday, September 30th at noontime. Bring your lunch and hang out, and we're going to be giving you more tips and strategies for building a podcast and also building a way to become visible so that the people who are already searching for you are going to have a way to find you. I'm going to go ahead and share as soon as I get the link. I'm going to share the link on the Facebook page here. If you have any questions, all of Patricia's links are in there. She's offering free 30-minute consultation. I would totally take her up on that. Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. Is that right?
If you're thinking of doing a podcast, just contact me and we'll have a complimentary consultation so I can ask you some questions. And I'm thrilled about this because I'm going to put this on my website and on my social media. So I really appreciate it.
You're very
Thank you,
welcome.
Susan.
All right.
Really
I know you have to jump off. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks a
Take
lot.
care, hon.
Bye. Bye.